welcome you to the Policy Roundtable discussion. We've had a number of discussions in the past before. We've had 5 others before. We've had one on education, we've had on electoral matters, and a couple of other subjects. And today we welcome you. We're going to be having a discussion on economic issues as they bother us as a country, as a people.
One of the reasons why we actually chose this topic for the session some weeks ago, right? We got a circular. Everyone actually got a circular that the CBN is banning cryptocurrencies and the trade of cryptocurrencies. But before I go forward with whatever I want to say, I would like us to watch this video. This is a video from the Office of the Vice President, and it was released yesterday. I would like us to watch briefly before I continue. Please, can you?
First is that there is no question that blockchain technology generally, and cryptocurrencies in particular, will in the coming years challenge traditional banking, including reserve banking, in ways that we cannot yet imagine. The point I'm making is that some of the exciting developments we see call for prudence and care in adopting them, and these have been very well articulated by our regulatory authorities. But we must act with knowledge and not with fear. We must ensure that we are in a position to benefit and in a position to prevent any of the adverse side effects or any of the possible even criminal acts that may arise as a consequence of adopting or taking any of these options.
That was very fast. But then, you'll be shocked to know that some weeks ago, or some months ago, MIDA is an agency of government. MIDA is an agency of government, and they released a document, a very comprehensive document as regards cryptocurrencies. They advised the federal government on how to use cryptocurrencies, how young persons can actually benefit from cryptocurrencies. But then it's shocking that after they released that particular document, the CBN blocked or banned cryptocurrencies. Now, you would wonder that why would an agency of government support cryptocurrencies and part of the blockchain industry, and another agency of government is saying something else, and now the vice president is saying something else under the same government? Now, these are policies from private persons that represent the government. However, it is sad that we don't have a wholesome policy as regards the blockchain industry. Countries in Africa are leaving us behind. Countries of the world are taking advantage of crypto, of the blockchain, whatever as it is. For Nigeria, instead of seeing how we can maximize this, we either ban or make life very hard for young persons that are trying to make a living out of these things. Now, the Vice President said what he feels is the industry should be regulated, not banned. But the Vice President is not the central bank, is not the governor of the central bank. The central bank governor actually regulates things like this. You would wonder why the Vice President can't just call the CBN governor for a meeting and they agree on a particular implementation plan. But these are the things we'll talk about here. Joining us is Tammy Correa, and Tammy Correa is a blockchain forensic analysis from the University of Bradford. He's doing his PhD in the blockchain industries. He will introduce himself, and then we have also Anyasi from Lagos. Is a cryptocurrency expert. Or you corrected me that it's not cryptocurrency, it's not blockchain expert, it's cryptocurrency.
They are blockchain experts.
Okay. He is a blockchain expert, so he'll be joining us and making this presentation. I would really like us to make our recommendations too, as most of our recommendations would not just stop here. I can promise you that most of our recommendations are going to places. I believe that it is not only enough for us to go to Twitter to rant, to talk, to insult the government and state rhetorics of how Nigeria cannot be better again, of how things would never be better, and without making viable recommendations. As young persons, I think we should have an alternative voice. Okay, you're saying cryptocurrencies should not be banned. What do you reckon? Like, what are your recommendations? What do you feel should be done? If cryptocurrencies should not be banned, then what are your recommendations? And this is what we're talking about here. By God's grace, I really believe that Nonso is here. Nonso, you're welcome. And Tammy would give us an insight into how all these things will work. Thank you and enjoy the session. God bless you.
Please don't give me a round of applause. Thank you, sir. I'd like to remind us that this is a policy roundtable, and very obviously we don't have a table, but we can make use of mine. And it's where we expect discussions, like the convener said. This is not a seminar. This is an avenue where we air our opinions, we air our views, we make recommendations, and we'll be expecting same. And we trust that this is going to be a very lively session for all of us. So next, we'll be having introduction of our guests, and to help handle that, I'll be inviting Justin. Thank you very much. Please be reminded to follow our Instagram page, to follow the program live. Thank you.
Good afternoon and welcome to another session of the Policy Roundtable. So, our guest speaker today is no other person than Newborn Williams. Round of applause. I got to know from Twitter as a crypto expert. Okay, I hope yes, crypto expert. So, Newborn Williams is a professional cryptocurrency trader and an analyst with over 6 years experience in cryptocurrency trading. His unique experience stems from many years of study and research about cryptocurrencies, institutional market players, mainstream projection, real-time use cases, and other market dynamics. A round of applause. A round of applause. I mean, crypto is new for someone to be over 6 years experience. That's something. He is also the lead mentor at Willy Wealth Masterclass. With his experience and platform, he has mentored hundreds of students around the world about these emerging financial markets, as well as the technology that powers this incredible innovation called blockchain. I think with so much expectation and respect, would welcome Mr. Newborn Williams.
Good afternoon. My name is Newborn Williams, and I've been into cryptocurrency from 2015, and experienced quite tremendous increase in terms of cryptocurrency. And it was a big shock to me to, receive the circular from CBN saying that cryptocurrency trading has been banned. Basically, what CBN said was the banks should no longer provide liquidity for cryptocurrency traders. So what I understood from the circular was we have quite a lot of young people who are doing so well in terms of cryptocurrency fintech. So we have companies like Binance, we have companies like Luno, we have Patricia, and a lot of them now. We have BFXT. There's so many of them that allow Nigerians to buy cryptocurrency and enjoy the possibilities and the potential of this emerging financial market. So I want to say that cryptocurrency as a whole is barely 10 years. The first cryptocurrency was introduced in 2009 by Satoshi Nakamoto. It is supposed to be a mysterious name. Nobody actually has a face to who Satoshi is. So the first cryptocurrency was produced in 2009, which is Bitcoin. And over a couple of years, over 10 years, we've seen the price rise from $1 to, as of today, I was just checking, it's about $47,000, sorry. And if you were a good mathematician and you wanted to calculate the percentage gain on that, I'm sure it would be mind-blowing. The last time I calculated, it was over 9,000%, which would be more than what it is. So I began to think to myself, why would CBN stop Nigerians from being a part of something that can deliver 9,000%? I mean, if you are a business person, you understand what to make 10% means. So if you have invested like 1 million naira in a business, and after a month, you can see profit of 10%, which is 100,000 naira. Then something over the span of 10 years has gone more than 9,000%. Then of course that thing should call your attention. You want to know what is it all about? Why is why the tremendous increase in price? So these are the kind of things that got my attention in 2015. Okay, I wanted to know why this incredible asset is doing so well and why it's increasing in price. So I did a further study. Sorry, I don't have a material. I was told it was going to be very short. I prepared material to just listen. So I did a very short study about cryptocurrencies in general and about Bitcoin. So what is cryptocurrency? Cryptocurrency is simply digital money. Okay? If you have your Naira note with you, that's paper money. You can call it fiat. That's paper money. But cryptocurrency is digital money. You don't see it. It is stored in a wallet, just in your phone. So if you have a blockchain wallet, the description is be your own bank. So just with your phone, you can log into your wallet if you have a blockchain. I think this is one of the most popular wallets. So this is like your bank account. So it's digital money that is stored in a wallet. So you have your wallet, and I have my wallet, and we can transact. So the idea behind Bitcoin was to, produce something that will work peer-to-peer without the need for a third party. This is why we have problems with several governments around the world. So cryptocurrency is built on a peer-to-peer system. So it was actually funny to a lot of people to hear that the government banned cryptocurrency, because you cannot ban something that is peer-to-peer, something that moves between both of us. So what the government actually did was to stop the bank from allowing its citizens to easily access cryptocurrency. Because from the comfort of my room, I can create accounts on Binance, one of the world's largest exchange, and with my Naira card or with a simple bank transfer, I can buy cryptocurrency. So Binance came into Nigeria and has been doing tremendously well, had a good interface with the bank, and the bank agreed to provide liquidity to as many Nigerians as possible that want to buy cryptocurrency. So after a while, because in Africa, Nigeria is number 1 in terms of cryptocurrency trading on Binance. So the traffic towards Binance must have caught the attention of CBN, because it was estimated that over 3 to 4 billion naira every day was being transacted by Nigerians on Binance. So it would make the government wonder, what is this thing that everyone is so interested in? I mean, we are not seeing this type of inflow in maybe oil, in maybe agriculture, and all of a sudden we have such huge inflow into Bitcoin. So these are some of the things that CBN looked at, And of course, cryptocurrency itself has its own limitations and also its own disadvantages, just like any useful tool. This phone has its advantages and it has its disadvantages. You're using an Apple product, you know that Apple stocks are expensive. You're using an Android phone, you know it's less expensive. So every useful tool has its advantages and disadvantages. So, why is the government banning cryptocurrency? So let's look at a few things. Now, the first thing that would catch your attention and as to why the price of cryptocurrency keeps increasing over the years. Number one, Bitcoin has a fixed supply, which is 21 million Bitcoin. So only 21 million Bitcoin would be in circulation all around the world forever and ever. That is how Satoshi created it to be. Now, if you understand the power of limited supply or the power of scarcity, you would know that that would indirectly affect the price. It's just basic law of demand and supply. Okay? So, because Bitcoin has a limited supply of 21 million tokens, now if you match that with the total population all around the world, you will know that not everybody can own a Bitcoin. So that alone is enough to drive the price. The second thing is, Bitcoin is built on a decentralized platform, unlike your traditional currency. For example, the Naira is being regulated by the CBN, and of course with other banks and other financial houses on the CBN. But in terms of Bitcoin, it is decentralized. It was designed to work peer-to-peer, so everyone is their own bank. So depending on how much I have in my wallet, I can simply send $10,000 to the United States, someone in the United States, and in a split second, the person will receive the money. So the problem with the government is, it is decentralized. So anything that is decentralized cannot be regulated to a large extent, which is one of the issues that government have with cryptocurrency. In the same vein, cryptocurrency is created on a decentralized platform, and that cannot be changed. That is how the creator built it to be. So the government cannot do anything about it being decentralized. Even with the ban, people are still trading. People are still carrying on with their businesses. It's even the bank that are missing out, because if you used to use Binance then, for every transaction that you make on Binance, the bank will charge you 150 Naira. So imagine 4 billion Naira worth of transaction daily. So you can calculate how much the banks themselves were making from the industry. So it makes us wonder, why would you only look at the negative part of the industry, whereby you can also take advantage of some of the prospects and the potentials of this industry? So let's look at some of the potentials of cryptocurrency. Number one, it has a global reach. So imagine staying here in Maitama and sending money to somebody in Canada without moving, without making any call, without having to go to the bank. Before, if you have to do such a transaction, you need to get to the bank, fill some forms, send money through Western Union, or send money to MoneyGram. So cryptocurrency provides a global reach. You can send money to any part of the world and pay for several services using cryptocurrency. I pay for courses, I bought things. Right now, Tesla accepts Bitcoin to buy any of their cars. You can use Bitcoin to buy a Tesla car. And Tesla itself invested $1.5 billion into Bitcoin. And other companies are adopting. Now, Tesla did not buy Bitcoin today, and they told you they bought Bitcoin like a month ago, and they later announced that they had invested this amount of money into Bitcoin. So you see that there is mainstream adoption going on all around the world. Several countries that are open-minded are allowing their citizens and also creating sustainable platforms for their citizens to take advantage of something that has a global reach. Number two, cryptocurrency transactions are fast. For example, if I was to transact in Ethereum, it would take about 15 seconds to complete the transaction, no matter the amount. So imagine you sending $30 million in 15 seconds. If you wanted to do that transaction through your banking system, of course you know it would take you nothing less than 7 working days, if not more, to process such a transaction. But with cryptocurrency, transactions are fast. Even with the new Binance Smart Chain, you can send transactions in just 5 seconds. And these are some of the potentials of the several blockchains that you see.
So next we'll be having a presentation from a very erudite personality, the person of Tami Poroye. Tami is a Nigerian trained legal practitioner who is currently a PhD student at the University of Bradford, conducting research on blockchain, cryptocurrencies regulation, and economic policies in Africa. He has experience in offering legal advisory services to tech startups on corporate compliance and company restructuring. So join me as I make welcome Tami for his presentation.
Okay, so I don't think I have much to say because it's sometimes just, like she said, give a rundown of everything. So whatever I'm going to say is basically going to be a repetition. But I'm going to come from the angle of the central bank's current regulatory stance on cryptocurrency. So I think we need to backtrack a little bit. Yes, the internet can be said to be the fourth industrial revolution in the world, and everyone is going virtual. Every human service, or almost every human service, is going virtual. And due to the 2008-2009 financial crisis, the trust people had on traditional financial institutions like the bank and insurance companies all dwindled. And so Satoshi Nakamoto came up with the white paper of Bitcoin, which is meant to be a decentralized form of trading or currency where parties can negotiate with themselves and pay P2P, basically what Mr. Success said earlier. But I think I have to mention this point at this juncture that one of the reasons why Satoshi came up with Satoshi is a fictitious person. It's argued to be an anagram of multiple people who came together to just make this white paper. The white paper provides for deregulation of the financial industry and decentralization itself. So, but if you trace the origin of the white paper of Bitcoin, you see that it is basically complying or is enhancing the anarchist manifesto, which is let's do away with centralized government, centralized institutions, and anything centralized, and bring power back to the people. Basically, anarchy. If you're looking at it from the government perspective, so with the fluctuation or the financial crisis happening in the world today, and people losing their jobs and devaluation of currencies, the concept of a decentralized form of currency, quote unquote, seems to be very attractive, and thus it has gained momentum. Also, the concept of cryptocurrency is based on the technology of blockchain, which is spectacular. We should note that blockchain can be used for things outside cryptocurrency. It can be used to, it's basically like a register of every data. So someone who has private or public key can have an encrypted key, can have access to this chain to access that data to understand what's going on. So you can use blockchain for elections, you can use blockchain for land registration, you can use blockchain for estates, you can use blockchain for various industries. It's that diverse. However, one of the ways it's most prominent now is the use of cryptocurrencies. I'm glad we have that aside. So, like Mr. Success said, fiat currencies can also be used for money laundering activities, for fraud and all that. Same with cryptocurrencies. One essential feature of the cryptocurrency is the semi-anonymous feature, which is I can transact without my identity and I don't need to basically verify myself. So financial institutions, traditional institutions have the requirements of know your customer, and they have the AML, that is anti-money laundering and counter-financing of terrorism regulations that are set in place to make sure that these banks make sure that their customers, they know who their customers are and they have an idea of how the customers transact. So if you're trying to send money to Boko Haram, it can be traced to this person and basically criminal prosecution and all that. Cryptocurrencies gives this sort of anonymity that I can transact with someone else in China without having, not China, someone in Hong Kong without having to reveal my real identity. Although the exchange platforms are trying to set in a limited version of KYC compliance. However, it is not as up to the standard of the banks, which is like you should know who this person is. So if you're trying to open a bank account, it is you submit your details, you submit either your passport or your national ID card or something, and you should have your face, your thumbprint, and all that, so that they have your detail and you know what they're transacting. But however, cryptocurrency is not like that, especially Bitcoin. So there is that issue of the fraud, funding of terrorism, and I recently, was it like last month or so, there were some people that were caught in Dubai who were funding Boko Haram in Nigeria through Bitcoin. So there is the issue of that, and there's also the issue of fraud, and yes. So there's fraud, there's AML, there's financing of terrorism, and also, like I said, decentralization, which is basically trying to do away with financial institutions. Financial institutions form like the backbone of our currency or of nations today. Like if anything happened to banks, it's going to have a ripple effect on the economy. If any bank shuts down, it's going to affect, if let's say Wema Bank shuts down, it's going to affect First Bank, which is going to affect UBA, which is going to affect Zenith. And if it affects Zenith is in other African nations, it's going to affect the economies of other nations. So the financial institution is interwoven. So you have international regulations for financial institutions and national regulations. It is one of the most regulated industries in the world today because of how essential it is to day-to-day government practices and economy. So cryptocurrency, however, just goes around all that and says we can do what we want. We can transact how we want, when we want, without any acknowledgement to the government principles. So that is, there is an exchange rate between the Naira and the dollar. I can send Bitcoin to someone in the US today and disregard that exchange rate. And this also affects the economy because from the exchange rate, states have some sort of state gain from exchange rates. That's why there's devaluation of currency and everything. State gain. So if once you go through all that, the states are at a loss. Yeah. Also, another issue is concerning the CBN regulation. These are all arguments for CBN, by the way. Concerning the CBN regulation, cryptocurrencies also are not really considered as legal currencies. They can be seen as a medium of exchanges, but for it to be a currency, it has to be three functions. It has to be a stable value of accounts, it has to be a medium of currency, and it has to be legally recognized. It is not legally recognized. There is nowhere in the world today that Bitcoin is legally recognized as a currency. It is recognized as a commodity, not a currency. So they see it, so in the UK here, they see it as a property. So if I have Bitcoin, they see it as basically me having a bottle a bottle of wine or a car. That's what they say. They do not see it as money. They do not. Money is different from property as a commodity. You can argue, but it is different as a commodity. But so these institutions, they see it as a property that you can transact with, not as a currency. Because in economics, once there are multiple currencies in a singular geographical location, it devalues the whole economic system. So, like say, there is a reason why we have a standard currency for each nation. Like that's why we have the naira, that's why we have the cedis, that's why we have the dollars, we have the pounds, we have the euro, because it's meant to regulate the financial activities and intra and intra financial activities within that specific geographical region. So if we have private economy, private currencies, it's going to be like a challenge to the already recognized state fiat currency. So that is why the Western states do not see cryptocurrency as a viable medium of exchange. They see it as a commodity. There's also a decision by the Court of Justice of the European Union where it said that cryptocurrencies are properties and they are not meant to be taxed. You cannot tax them because they're personal properties. Also, the issue of how complex the transaction is. Of how complex mining the transaction is. So cryptocurrencies are gotten from mining or patching, as you can argue. And mining is basically working out different mathematical calculations on a software to try and answer different mathematical questions so that you'll be rewarded a cryptocurrency. The more there exists a currency, the more complex it gets to mine. So like now, he said cryptocurrencies start pegged at 21 million, Bitcoin rather. So the more Bitcoin circulation increases in the world today, the more difficult it gets to mine. However, people still mine. People still take deliberate actions to mine, and mining consumes lots of electricity, lots of power. So currently, the amount of mining that is being done today for Bitcoin is more than the power usage in Ireland. The full country is more than the usage in Ireland. That's just for mining of Bitcoin alone. Not to mention they will have thousands of cryptocurrencies out there, not to mention the mining. So it has environmental implications because, as you all know, the world hasn't moved into a more sustainable energy generation points yet. We are still trying to say, okay, we're moving into natural resources and all that. So if we are using fossil fuel, it's basically going anti-climate change, climate regulation policies, which is because if once you recognize cryptocurrencies, it's going to have a lot of energy implications. Yeah. So that is another reason, although that is not also mentioned by the CBN. So now I've talked about why the CBN would regulate this, and also, like he said, the currency Bitcoin fluctuates. So there's a difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bitcoin is not a stable coin. Bitcoin is basically based on supply and demand. So if people all wake up today like they are currently because of the institutions backing it and saying we want Bitcoin, the price goes up. The price of Bitcoin just skyrockets. If tomorrow Elon Musk tweets that I'm tired of Bitcoin is trash, the price will definitely plummet. So the price is very unstable because it's not set out to any viable entity or property. It's just based on the principles of supply and demand, which is quite complex. So in Nigeria today, the GDP, according to NBS statistics, the services industry has outgrown the oil and gas industry, which with I think $8 trillion, at least for the first $8 trillion rather for the first quarter. So, and this services industry involves basically finance, music, publishing, etc., etc., etc. In I think 2020, Nigeria had 400 million dollars worth of Bitcoin transactions that went within Nigeria just in 2020. So you can see that there is lots of crypto activities moving. Nigeria is like the first, the most recognized crypto state in the country, in the continent rather, and second to the US in terms of crypto activities in the world. That is. So the advantages, as you can see, are one, financial inclusion, economic empowerment, like Mr. Success has also said. I don't need to go into all that. So what are my recommendations? Nigeria is a part of the Intergovernmental Action Group Against Money Laundering in West Africa. It's like an organization called GIA, Intergovernmental Action Group Against Money Laundering in West Africa. And this body recognizes the Financial Action Task Force on Money Laundering, the FATF. It's an international organization that provides documentation on how states can regulate money laundering. They have a well outlined policy or recommendation on how states can recognize and combat money laundering using for cryptocurrency. It is well recognized, it is well researched, it is out there, it's published. It's only meant for states to adopt. Nigeria is in the best position to adopt this policy and regulate cryptocurrencies. So, Mr. Success talked about the fact that some of the companies have their KYC and AML functions, policies within their institutions. However, some of these companies are not registered in Nigeria. So if the central bank wants to bring an action against these companies, it involves a whole lot of jurisdictional approach. You cannot enforce the decisions here. And it's very complex, especially since it's something like cryptocurrency that can be quickly transacted. Although there are institutions like chain analysis that help in tracing crypto funds and retracting it, although it's complex, you have to get a court order from countries, so it's really complex. So what's this FATF regulation, basic or recommendation simply states is you can enforce this recommendation to combat terrorism, to combat money laundering. For the aspects of energy consumption, it's basically for the Nigerian state government to say, okay, cryptocurrencies should have a limitation for transactions. You do not transact to this certain extent. You do not transact to this. You do not transact basically, I want to buy a job, so I send you Bitcoin, because it's very complex at that point. So you have to regulate how you consume the energy until we find very other viable means of energy consumption or production rather. As for the point of decentralization, true, China has banned Bitcoin straight up. China banned Bitcoin. China is in control of their currency, like you said. So China basically are looking at that. They've created, they are not looking at it. They've created their own digital cryptocurrency, which is DCEP, and it's basically meant like if it's the state-owned Bitcoin, you can argue that way. The state-owned Bitcoin that is being used to regulate, and they are basically adopting all the advantages of Bitcoin, but it's state regulated. So states can also do that. Although I know that the mechanism to do that is very, very complex, and Nigeria might not have that yet. However, it's something we can also look into. I know South Africa is also looking at it, Kenya is also looking at it, and other countries in the world are looking at it because one, Libra, Facebook's former Libra, which is now TM, was announced, and all this is going. If Facebook Libra is operational, it's going to destabilize most economies because, like I said, exchange rates, senior rate, and whatever. So yeah, those are my recommendations. CBN can simply adopt the recommendation of the Financial Action Task Force on money laundering and try to regulate cryptocurrency. Yeah, thank you. I have a lot more to say about time. Thank you very much.
Once again, welcome us to the Policy Roundtable. This is our fifth program we've had programs in the past where we spoke on education, on electoral matters, and today we are concerned about economic policies. We have displayed social media handles, and we invite you to please follow us on those social media handles. Thank you. We have a presentation next from another very erudite speaker, our guest speaker, in the person of Nonso Ayansi. Mr. Nonso is a constitutional lawyer and former senior counsel at commercial law firm Charles Mekunye & Co. He has worked on research and legislative policies on data privacy rights and cybersecurity law as a graduate fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies. He is currently an LLM candidate in data privacy and cybersecurity at the Loyola Law School, Los Angeles. He is also a member of the Digital Rights Lawyers Initiative. It is my singular honor and privilege to welcome Mr. Nonso to make this presentation. Thank you.
Previous speakers who have spoken have taken almost all the words out of my mouth, so I will just go straight to the economic activities and the effects of the ban of cryptocurrencies on the economy by the Central Bank of Nigeria. And as the previous speaker said, that it's very, very pertinent to realize that cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoins and other coins, they are not legal tender, they are not money, it is a property. And as it is a property, the right to own such property is one that is constitutionally guaranteed by Section 44 of the Constitution. That right cannot be taken away arbitrarily by a name or administrative policy of the Central Bank. And as we speak now, my organization, Digital Rights Lawyers Initiative, have filed an originating summons at the Federal High Court Lagos here, where we are challenging the legality of the purported ban on cryptocurrency trading. And from what we understand, that the Central Bank also gave an order that any person who is found to be transacting in cryptocurrency trading should have their bank account closed. We are also challenging the legality and the constitutionality of this because we have good reasons to believe that that directive has no constitutional basis. Then, in the press interview that DSCBM governor gave a few days back, and also the memo that they released and the other instruments they've been releasing, the CBN has been giving they've been giving the impression that cryptocurrencies is a sort of legal tender. That is why they are trying to regulate it. But contrary to what they said, the Central Bank of Nigeria Act has given the full powers to the Central Bank to determine what the legal tender of Nigeria shall be. And the Central Bank of Nigeria has exercised that powers under the Act to determine that the Naira is the legal tender in Nigeria. So the meaning of this is that it is only the Naira that is a legal tender in Nigeria. Therefore, any legal transaction or any commercial activity that needs to be recognized in Nigeria has to be done via the Naira. And also, the CBN Act, Section 20 sub 5 of the Act, also gives the Central Bank of Nigeria the power to prescribe other medium of exchange. So that means the Central Bank can hook up tomorrow and say, yeah, you can buy the property and pay for the property in Nigeria by using gold or by using Bitcoin. The CBN has this power. So my best recommendation is that the Central Bank, instead of an outright ban, should explore their powers and exercise their powers under Section 20 sub 5 to enable cryptocurrencies, a stable cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, as a mode of or a medium of exchange in Nigeria. But from what Mr. Kamikoe and Mr. Sanders have told us, there are some issues that come with dealing with cryptocurrency. These issues are issues of the volatility of cryptocurrencies, the fact that criminals use these cryptocurrencies to engage in criminal activities and can't be traced. So how do we circumnavigate this problem? The first thing we can do is to dialogue with the relevant stakeholders. There are lots, as Mr. Kamikoe pointed out, Nigeria is the second most the second country with the highest users, the highest persons who transact in cryptocurrencies in the world, in the whole world, and we are the first in Africa. So given our primary position as the second country that contributes to cryptocurrency transactions in the whole world, we have this economic clouds that we can use to actually invite the moderators and the regulators and the creators of these different cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Tether, Litecoin, and the rest. We can invite them there. The Ministry of Communication, the NITDA, and the relevant agencies, also the central bank, can invite stakeholders from these foreign agencies to come to the country to come and explain. There's nothing wrong with saying, oh, yeah, this technology is beyond our knowledge. Come and explain this to us. When they do this, bringing stakeholders from the international community, we also have a lot of cryptocurrency experts. We have lots of lawyers in this country who have studied blockchain and who can advise the government appropriately on the relevant steps to be taken. The government should engage all of these persons in dialogue to look for a way out in such a way that the use of cryptocurrency benefits everybody. Then secondly, one of the reasons that the Central Bank of Nigeria gave as their impetus for banning cryptocurrency exchange in Nigeria is the fact that they are very, very concerned about the outplay of foreign currency in Nigeria. Because if you are familiar with the different digital wallet and trading apps, you notice that the default currency for purchasing any digital currency is US dollars. So that means if you want to purchase a Bitcoin, for example, the default currency there is US dollars. So from what the Central Bank of Nigeria is understanding from their limited knowledge that when you buy, for example, if you buy a particular unit, let's say I want to buy Ethereum, I want to buy 2 units of Ethereum, and it costs a particular amount of money. That foreign currency, that United States dollar is leaving the economy, it's going out of the country, and it is costing them because the Central Bank of Nigeria is very interested in having a certain reserve of foreign currency in the country at any given point in time. So they are always concerned when there's any activity that tends to take away the flow of foreign currency from the country to other countries. This is one of the major reasons why they banned this. And this was also done out of ignorance, and this is what would have been solved by proper consultation with the relevant agencies. As I said, invite the stakeholders here. Given our position as the country with the second highest users of cryptocurrency trading in the world, there's nothing stopping these different cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tron, and the rest from coming to an agreement in such a way that they could have a base here in Nigeria, and such that exchanges will be done in such a way that we conserve the flow of foreign exchange in Nigeria. This is something that the government would have examined. Then next, we see that in this country, they use a popular phrase. The more you regulate an activity, or the more you ban an activity, the more interested people will be in that activity. Now let's look at what is going on in the security sector. Kidnapping is obviously outlawed. There are laws against kidnapping, there are laws against rape, there are laws against murder, but this has not stopped anybody from engaging in any of these illicit activities. Cryptocurrency trading is something that has caught the attention of almost every Nigerian youth. Many Nigerians are interested in cryptocurrency trading. Then banning this thing, if the government bans this thing, it's not going to stop anybody from conducting cryptocurrency trading or activities in Nigeria. People will still make payments via cryptocurrency in this country. People will still buy cryptocurrency. People will still invest in cryptocurrency. So instead of an outright ban, the government can allow people to do what they want to do in a very regulated context. Now, as I said earlier, cryptocurrency is not illegal tender, it is a property. If I want to buy a property in Banana Island, let's say I want to buy a house in Banana Island, Lagos, and I tell the seller, I don't want to pay you in naira, I want to pay you in gold. There's nothing stopping me from paying the seller or the vendor of that house in gold. I can do that. It is allowed. In the same vein, instead of putting an outright ban and closing everybody's account, say if you see with cryptocurrency or if they see transacting with cryptocurrency, they ban your account, they block your account and all of that. The government can allow people to engage in commercial activities. There are times when I'm in Nigeria, I may need to pay for something halfway around the world in, let's say, in Canada. And instead of me stressing myself with the issue of exchanging my naira to the Canadian currency, foreign exchange, and all of that, I can easily make my payments through using cryptocurrency. I can pay in Bitcoin. If I have Bitcoin, I can trade Bitcoin, I send it to the person and all of that. The government can allow this now. What would now be the legal implication? For the lawyers, you notice that if you have a registered instrument, for example, if you buy a property and you do your deed of assignment, but you refuse to register it, you refuse to stamp that deed of assignment in the land office, in the land registry, that deed of assignment is going to be a proof that you have paid money for the house. But your failure to stamp that document in the relevant office, that is the land office, means that you cannot admit that deed or that document in court as proof of ownership of that property. So in the same vein, Nigeria could have done something similar. Monitor, if they want to tax, they can tax, they have to register the transactions. Then failure to register this transaction with the relevant agency means that you cannot claim a right from that transaction. So that means, if for example, if I purchase something, I pay for something, I'm trying to buy an airplane from somebody in Dubai, and I pay the person in Bitcoins. It's not prohibited. I can use Bitcoin. I can buy Bitcoins using my cheat bank account in Nigeria, and I buy Bitcoins. I sell the Bitcoins to the person's wallet, and the person receives it. Nigeria can regulate this and even directly come by making me in Nigeria here register that transaction. When I register the transaction, they can do whatever they want to do, their representation and get their money from there. So therefore, if for example the contract is meant to have been performed in Nigeria, and a problem arises, probably the other party breaches its obligation under the contract, and I have done the necessary registration, then I will be permitted to go to court to claim a breach of contract that, oh, there was a contract, and this is the proof of the contract with the person. Because when I'm performing a transaction, talking about anonymity, yeah, anonymity exists. But if I'm trying to purchase a property, probably I'm trying to buy a helicopter or an aeroplane from somebody abroad, I will not just be dealing with an anonymous entity. I myself, I have the responsibility to do my due diligence, to investigate the person first, to make sure that I'm buying from a legal person. And when I do all of this, when I'm convinced that I'm buying from a legal person, from a good and stable person, I make my payment. Then when the problems of which the person has failed to perform his obligation under the contract, actually permitted to enforce that contract with the Nigerian court. If the contract was meant to have been performed in Nigeria, that is, if the Nigerian court actually has jurisdiction. So I recommend that the government should look for a way to make people in Nigeria who perform cryptocurrency transactions to register their high volume transactions with them, and they can benefit from this by taxing such transactions. And then lastly, before I round up, one of the points that Tamikore said was about China having its own centralized Bitcoin, its own centralized digital currency. And yes, Nigeria can actually explore this. Instead of banning first and stopping everybody's means of livelihood, the Nigerian government can actually sponsor research into the areas of blockchain technology and digital currency. They can sponsor people to go and learn about all of these things, go and study these things, tell us how it works, then come back to the country with your observation. Let us build our own. Bitcoin, digital currency is not just Bitcoin. Digital currency means a currency, a mode of payment that exists virtually. You can't say this is my Bitcoin or this is my. You can't touch it, something that exists virtually. That means the Nigerian government can actually have its own centralized, or not use the word centralized, because the whole idea of digital currencies is decentralization. But Nigeria can actually have its own mode of exchange, own virtual mode of exchange, which it can regulate to an extent. We have seen in the recent weeks, or in the past 1 month, we've seen the way the owner of Tesla has been influencing the volume and the value of Bitcoin and other currencies in Nigeria by just simply tweeting about it. In the way that Nigeria banned cryptocurrencies, we saw that the digital currencies also responded. Like we said that there was a fluctuation. Some of the coins rose in value, some declined. There was a response to the ban by the Nigerian government. So the government can actually sponsor research and also sponsor investment, safe investment in blockchain technology. There's nothing preventing the government from learning how all of these things work and also making investment, putting their own investment, purchasing volumes for the future. Because if the Nigerian government does all of this, they can come up with their own currency and they can regulate it with whatever they want to regulate. They can decide to control, because the digital currencies are controlled by market forces, demand and supply, as Mr. Kamiko said. So the Nigerian government can influence all of these things. They can come up with their own currency, or they can even actually influence the value. They can influence the volatility of the bitcoins and so the digital currencies that we use here in Nigeria to sponsor research and investment in the country. So because of time, I was given only 5 minutes and I'm taking close to 15 minutes now. But I think the government actually needs to sit down and evaluate, because I can confidently assure you that since the day we released their memo, that was the 4th of February, many Nigerians have continued to transact in cryptocurrency tradings by using peer-to-peer. Peer-to-peer means instead of me buying the Bitcoin from a centralized wallet or using my bank app, I simply meet somebody who has, for example, want to purchase Bitcoin, and meet somebody who has Bitcoin for sale. I send the money to his bank account, the person send the Bitcoin to my wallet. And when we do the transaction, I don't need to put anything that will show that I'm buying bitcoins. I can say I'm buying yam in my bank transaction, and nobody knows. My bank account will be closed. So banning this thing has not really stopped people from doing what the government is trying to stop us from doing. So what the government needs to do now is to take back, evaluate, and retrace their steps. Thank you very much.
Very practical recommendation. There were a lot of reactions from various persons, from stakeholders to ordinary Nigerians. I took note of a few, and very especially one struck me, the tweets from Obi Ezekwesi. I will just leave the line from that tweet. She said, "Our country's DNA for irony is uncanny." That makes more sense to me now, having watched the video of the Vice President, Yemi Osibanjo. I mean, in Yemi's video, he rather recommended that cryptocurrencies be regulated rather than being outrightly banned. Now, it leaves one to wonder, the CBN is an agency of the government. Yemi Osibanjo is a member of the government. I mean, the irony is actually very laughing because, well, we are Nigerians. At this juncture, would invite us to ask our questions. I know that we have been itching to ask questions, a lot of it. May I remind us that this is a discussion and we expect very lively discussions from us. I'm sure we enjoyed all the presentations I did, and I'm sure we did too. So please, if you have questions, this is your time to bring them out. Thank you. Questions? All right. Just let us know who your question is targeted at. Who should answer your question?
My question is directed to our first speaker. Okay, so I don't know if this, my question goes to us. All right, my question goes to us. With the so many of this of the cryptocurrencies platforms around, how do we? I don't know if it's the right platform to ask this question. Which really recommend? Because I have so many friends of mine that you don't come invest in cryptocurrency, right? But with the proliferation of so many of them, which would you recommend to most of us here, that's one. And second, I think last week, there's this video that went viral of somebody of a man who said his daughter was actually kidnapped, and the kidnappers requested, he said he made the parents their crypto or Bitcoin. So how do we, yes, I know we've given all different platforms or different ways that government can do to regulate the crypto space, but how in that kind of situation, for such as how is it possible for a criminal to request for let me rephrase the question. Now how do a criminal get the money back? So if for instance my daughter is being kidnapped and you tell me to pay their cryptocurrency, so how can the government regulate such kind of person, considering the fact that these persons are faceless? Thank you.
So like I said, the platforms like Binance, Remitano, there are a lot of them out there, even Arbitrator app, there's so many of them. They allow you to easily buy cryptocurrency. Okay, like you can buy up to 10 million naira worth of any cryptocurrency of my choice from Binance. But now that option has been taken away. The bank will not provide that service for you anymore. So how do you buy? We have to stick to peer-to-peer. So you have to look for someone who has Bitcoin to buy from. So basically the transactions now are on trust basis. So I have to be able to trust the convener that he has Bitcoin, and I will send him money and he will send me the Bitcoin. So what is happening now is, if you belong to any crypto community, there are escrow groups, escrow. So basically we have, let's say both of us want to transact, let's say $1 million worth of Bitcoin. So what will happen is, you have a third party who is the escrow, like this man. So I will send the money to him just to be sure that he will release the coin, that he will not run away with the money. So I will send the money to him. Okay, he's the middleman, and when he receives the money, he will be a trusted person, of course. And when he receives the money, he will tell you to send me the Bitcoin. The problem with Bitcoin is once you have sent, you have sent. There is no reversal. So you send the money on his word. So once I receive the money, once I receive the Bitcoin, I'll tell him I received the Bitcoin. Release the money to him. So that's how transactions have been going on since the ban, because you cannot buy exactly all. There are also peer-to-peer platforms. Binance has evolved into a peer-to-peer platform. So if you download the Binance app from any of the stores, you do your verification, and you can buy from the peer-to-peer platform. You will see several people with adverts of Bitcoin or of any currency of their choice that they want to sell, and they will give you their rates. So if the rate is fine with you, and you can transact. Platforms like Remitano are also peer-to-peer platforms. I don't know if Luno has evolved into a peer-to-peer platform. Even Arbitrator app. So you can use any of those platforms to transact on peer-to-peer basis. So that is how transactions have been going on. You can no longer use the bank, so you have to identify somebody who has Bitcoin or any currency that you want and buy from the person. Okay, that's one. Then number two, we talked about criminal activity. So how can that be regulated? Truthfully, before Bitcoin, if somebody is kidnapped and they request for a ransom, whether it is naira or it is pounds or it is dollars, you pay, you pay. Does it mean that they always catch the kidnapper? They don't. So with the case of Bitcoin, now of course if you are paying a kidnapper, you're not going to be paying cash. You're not going to be, doing a bank transfer. If a kidnapper demands 50 million, they're going to deliver that 50 million cash. Because with cash transactions, there's no proof. If I give you 20K now, the only proof is between me and you. There's no record of that transaction. If it's a cash transfer, but if it's a bank transfer, there's a record with the bank that money left in my account to your account. But if it's a cash transaction, there's no record. That's why most of these illegal deals are done on cash, and you might have to, in developed clients, there's something they have to clean the money. So you might have cash, but it will be dirty money. You cannot use it. You have to, either use it to buy something and clean the money. Okay. So cash transaction in terms of ransom will not have any proof. So if a kidnapper or anybody requests for Bitcoin, and if the person is holding your loved one, you have to send the Bitcoin. Okay. Or probably your loved one is going to be killed. So when you send the Bitcoin, the person has Bitcoin. Bitcoin has value, and the person can resell to anybody. Okay. So in that case, it will simply make fraudulent and illegal activities easier, because 50 million would be very heavy to carry. Or 50 million in Bitcoin is just 1 second, and it's in your phone, and you can systematically sell it bit by bit. So these are some of the disadvantages, of course, as you rightly pointed out. But it's not going to be easy to buy 50 million naira worth of Bitcoin at a time. So these are some of the disadvantages that we have rightly pointed out. And there are ways to checkmate. You cannot really checkmate fraud to the absolute. You can only put in several steps or several things in place to ensure that that can be done. But with the limits on most of the brokers, most of the exchanges, like on Binance, you cannot do more than 4 million a day. So it's going to be very difficult to buy Bitcoin worth 50 million and send to a kidnapper. So if these terms are being negotiated with the kidnapper, okay, then the kidnapper might change his mind on the choice of payment. But either ways, ransom is usually untraceable. If you pay cash, it's untraceable, except maybe you mark the notes. Okay? But with Bitcoin, it's even worse, because the person can easily do his illegal activities without being traced. Did I answer your question? Thank you.
Hello. That it's very, very necessary for me to clarify at this point that if anybody here or elsewhere is planning on probably transacting in the cryptocurrency trading at this stage, there are a few things you should do. Number one, possession of cryptocurrencies, possession of Bitcoin, in fact, possession of the cryptocurrency trading app or wallets on your phone or your computer is not a criminal offense in Nigeria. I'm saying this because I know the attitude of the Nigerian police that number one, they are ignorant, and number two, they love abusing power. So it will not be suspicious, it will not be out of place to hear that a policeman conducting a stop and search starts touching somebody's phone, because some of them should do that. And they probably see some of these crypto trading apps on your phone, or they see a wallet or something like that. Or they even see proof of the recent transaction on your phone, and they might decide to arrest you. But I want to let you know that number one, possession of cryptocurrencies in Nigeria is not criminalized. Because for something to be a criminal offense in Nigeria, it has to be prohibited by an act, by a law. And the CBN memos from all the way back from 2017 to the one of 4th of February 2021 does not fall within the definition of an act of parliament or a law. Then secondly, if you have, because when the CBN released its memo on the 4th of February 2021, they mentioned something about closing bank accounts of anybody who deals in cryptocurrency. It's also necessary to motivate at this point that if you have transacted or if you have performed any transaction that led to funds coming into your bank account before that 4th of February 2021, the effect is that the CBN or the national banks have no rights to seize or to deprive you of the money in your account. Even if they are going to fulfill if they are going to obey the directives of the CBN, what they are required to do is to close your account and invite to the bank to give you a bank draft with the sum of money, with the value of the amount of money in your account. You are entitled to the money. So basically, you cannot be punished or arrested for possessing any trading app. In fact, it can even be argued that engaging in transactions via cryptocurrency, for example, if I engage in peer-to-peer transaction as my colleague here was explaining, and somehow the authorities get to hear about this, it is not illegal from the text of the law. it is regulated, but that doesn't make it illegal. It's not illegal whatsoever. You cannot be arrested for it. So I caution everybody to exercise due care, exercise restraint, but to know the kind of country where we are in, where the government agencies don't care, or the police and the authority they don't care, they are not enlightened. But you should just know your rights, that you cannot be arrested for it. If you want to do it safely, you can do it safely, but know that you cannot be arrested or incur any criminal liabilities for this. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Yes, we have more questions. Apart from Nigeria, other countries, especially the developed world, the United States and you mentioned China, they're not totally welcomed the idea of the blockchain technology and the cryptocurrency, at least in my understanding. So first of all, so what the excuse they usually give is because the fact that the trading in cryptocurrency usually affects their economy. I don't understand how that works, but you can explain to me, I'm very glad. Then again, I want to ask, to what extent is the difference between the central bank's ban on cryptocurrency in Nigeria and the ban or unwelcome stance of the other developed countries towards cryptocurrency? Thank you very much. Okay.
So for us to discuss how cryptocurrencies affect fiat currencies, it all boils down to economic principles where it's called, cryptocurrencies can be called private money, where private money is seen as a challenge to state-recognized fiat currencies. So in the US, I think in the 1980s, there was this thing called dollar gold or something gold, where it was like a private money where people just woke up and said, this is what we're going to trade in. This is what we are going to transact in. If you, like Mansell rightly said, the CBN is authorized to have the authority to make a legal tender, the recognized legal tender in Nigeria. So if a group of people in a country are deciding to have a singular legal tender that they can use to exchange amongst themselves, it is going to go contrary. It affects, first of all, it affects state sovereignty and it's going to affect the state's economy. So basically, it's like trading people, like let's say in Lagos, they only use the dollar to transact, while the rest of Nigeria uses Naira. The exchange rate is going to be affected also. And whilst countries make profits from printing out currencies, yeah, it's called seigniorage. So once that is affected, like if there's a cryptocurrency that is recognized as a legal tender in a country, it is definitely going to affect the system and the economy of the country, the financial principles, the economic principles, and all that monetary issues. However, in the US also, very complex stuff. There are people of the US is not too moved by the Bitcoin discussion. But if you look at the system of practice in America and the system of practice in Nigeria, it's totally different. They practice true federalism. True, so each state has the strength to make, or the legal responsibility to make lots of economic policies that would affect the state itself. And this dwindles down to their contemporaries of local governments and all that. While Nigeria, it's totally different. Nigeria, although we say we practice a federalism system of government, we have a more centralized system of government where everything is at the top. So everything has to be regulated. What Bitcoin basically does is deregulate the same and decentralizing the same. We do not have to go through the central bank and all that. So it's going to be it's basically like saying, government, you do not have power over our economy anymore. We have power over ourselves. It's going to affect the decisions of the government and the policies of the government as well.
Okay, sorry, can I just one second? But Mr. Tami, is it possible for cryptocurrencies and state-owned currencies to function on its own? Like in Nigeria, we have Naira, which is our official currency, and then we have other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the likes. Is it possible for the Nigerian government does not need to officially recognize Bitcoin or Ethereum as a legal tender? But is it because we have not gotten to a stage where cryptocurrencies are generally accepted? You still have to change your Bitcoin to Naira to transact in Nigeria. So we are not getting to the point where I can walk into ShopRite, for example, and pay for a good or service using Bitcoin. I would have to still convert my Bitcoin to Naira. So it still shows that we can have a system where both currencies can coexist. What do you think about that?
Sorry, what I'm going to say now is part of what you said. Like you said, as terminal. You said in the UK buy a property and you're going to sell it. How does it, interfere with your economical growth or whatever? 3 years?
Okay. Autocratic sort of control to a very decentralized or very easy, laissez-faire sort of control. But every system of government wants to have control. They want to have control over that. Like I said, the financial sector of every country is very instrumental in managing that country. Once a country cannot manage that financial sector, it crumbles. It crumbles down to the ground. Like there's no more a country anymore. So those are telltale signs of a failed state. So all countries, like governments, authorities, want to regulate the financial sector. Yes. So if the recommendation is okay, like in the UK now, we see cryptocurrencies as property. They do not see it as challenging the pound. It is not challenging the pound. It is just a means for which people transact. They use the pound to buy this stuff, and they get it, and they make their profits. Like me, it's basically buying and selling. That's how the UK government sees it: buying and selling. And as you are buying and selling, you can easily tax it. However, there's also we should not forget the fact that there are multiples of cryptocurrencies existing. There's also stable coins. There's also decentralized institutions. There are also decentralized finance. There's also a lot of stuff like that. So what these things do is they are challenging the traditional financial system, which has taken lots of analysis and training and regulations to formulate. Yes, so these things come and just destabilize the system. So what states are doing is if they take Bitcoin and tax it, the way Bitcoin operates is different from the way Ethereum operates. It's definitely different from the way Facebook's DM operates, which will be different from the way another cryptocurrency will operate. So they cannot have a singular regulation that's applicable to all cryptocurrencies because of their intrinsic differences. So what they do is they are trying to study, Western states are trying to study the cryptocurrencies to come up with a sort of fluid regulation that can be applicable to these states. But however, if you look at something like Facebook's DM, when it was announced, which was Libra, it was definitely going to topple governments or topple economies, because I can easily just, with my Facebook account, send money to someone else in North Korea if the person has his Facebook account, without having due regard to the currency issues, to trade, to the exchange rates and all that. Note that exchange rate also has a high telling or high influence on government policies as well. Government basically is economy, it's economics. Aside the politics, it's economics. They are always conscious of the economy. So if these issues are basically rip the control out of the government's hands, they feel powerless. Then there's no need for the government. Everyone can go decentralized. Do you understand?
Yes.
So when Facebook announced their Libra, the EU immediately stood up and said, "We are not going to allow this in our region. We cannot allow this in our region." The EU started looking at how to have a centralized centralized euro digital currency, the digital version of the euro, while China came up with their digital currency, the CEP. Other countries, because of how challenging, because of how complex, and how challenging Libra is going to affect their system. So much so that Facebook had to go back to their drawing board, reschedule, and come up with a different white paper on how their Libra should operate. So they changed Libra to DM. So DM now has two structures. There's the international one, which you can use for international structures, and there's the national one. So you can have a national DM that you can transact amongst the countries. Because if they didn't come up with that strategy, it's no country in the world was going to allow it because of the implications that is. It's a complex economic stuff. It's not just
All right. Thank you.
It will be very difficult for them to regulate. So if they allow it to thrive, after a while, it might challenge the state-owned currency. So even with countries like the UK and the United States that see cryptocurrency as a commodity and as a property where you can just buy and sell, if the government cannot come up with a good regulatory framework on how to regulate cryptocurrency, there is this fear that cryptocurrency will challenge state-owned currency. So I think this is one of the major challenges: control. Government is just one person, okay? The president of Nigeria is a person, but control is the difference, okay? So that's the challenge with cryptocurrency, and the government of the world is still working on how these things can be sorted out, okay? So we just wait and see what they come up with. In some other countries, I think in some states in the in US, you cannot trade cryptocurrency. And I also saw a circular for people in the UK that derivative trading. I don't know whether you saw that, Gabby. Derivative trading as futures. You might not be able to do futures trading, or you can still buy and own currency. So for different states and different countries, there are several regulations. I know for the United States as well, Binance had to create another platform for its United States customers called Binance US. So you cannot use the Binance app I'm using in the United States. You have to download Binance US, or you have to use VPN. So I think some of these regulations, I think for UK residents and US residents, you actually pay tax on maybe deposits, maybe withdrawals and profits and all of that. Those systems are even more organized because you're the one that submits your tax record. The IRS knows how much tax you pay, but you are the one that is going to do your tax record and submit. So I think because cryptocurrency is already decentralized, it's going to be a bit difficult. So the government will only make it more difficult for you to do it by taxing a huge percentage on maybe your profits or your holdings or your withdrawal. We're still waiting to see some of the regulations that will be rolled out from Biden's government that are working very closely on replacing cryptocurrency. So we just wait to see, and we believe that anything that they put out will be easily adopted by the rest of the world. That's all the questions. A lot of questions.
So basically what I want to say, it's not a question, it's a comment. We have been reiterating the fact that China recently banned cryptocurrency. But if we look deep into the reason why they did it, you will discover that it's simply because they want to issue a state-owned digital currency. So it's not as if they have anything against cryptocurrency. They just want control. So now, if you look at cryptocurrency mining statistics from China, you realize that most crypto mining machines and computers come from China. Currently, the largest crypto mining company in the world is SOS Limited. They have 15,000 mining rigs, and it's a Chinese company. So let's be careful not to mix the motive why they banned cryptocurrency.
Thank you.
I want to appreciate the speakers. They did a great job. Thank you very much. You talked about financial institutions as third parties to peer-to-peer transactions. I want to ask, I know we've seen recommendations to CBN, what they ought to do. Can we recommend a situation whereby the third parties are out of the equation? What I mean is the financial institutions are out of the equation. Is it possible that we can have Bitcoin transactions without the third party? Is it possible we can have transactions without the third party? Since there's a ban on institutions from aiding us to use Bitcoin, can we remove them from the transaction? And indirectly, Mr. Sutton.
Before I pose my questions to either anyone can start the question, although it stems from your presentation, because of their background as biased, questions and well taken by them as well. First of all, as an addition to what Mr. Noso has said about cryptocurrency not being illegal in Nigeria, it is in fact true that it is not illegal in Nigeria. The CBN said we do not recognize it as a legal tender, while the Securities and Exchange Commission recognizes it as a security, unless otherwise broken. And by virtue of that, it remains legal as a security, because by virtue of Section 13 of the Investment and Securities Act, it is the SEC as the apex regulatory bodies for securities in Nigeria. Also, there's the United States of America case, particularly USA versus Zastarski, where the district court said cryptocurrencies are securities, and therefore, under the purview of the United States Securities and Exchange Commission. And also, the letter by CBN by itself does not constitute a law. And because of that, there's a Nigerian case, Omate versus Federal Republic of Nigeria, who says that these administrative circulars, although they have their place, cannot create a law or cannot make something unlawful. So yes, they are not illegal as of today. Now back to my question. You mentioned in your recommendation that the government can collaborate with these exchanges to sort of tap or exploit from funds that are being transacted through these exchanges. Now, but on the other side, it means that these governments, and you also said that these exchanges to some extent have KYC compliance, and I believe KYC means know your customer. And for you to have this adherence, it means your customer must have given some data about themselves to you. Now, if you're saying that the Nigerian government should collaborate with these exchanges, it means that you can go to these exchanges and demand data of persons. Now, that conflicts with our data regulation rules or even the global data regulatory regimes, because when I give out my data to these exchanges and the CBN can come and get these data from these exchanges, it means that these exchanges have breached my data rights. So how do you reconcile these conflicts in light of the fact that that's a recommendation that the exchanges, these are the CBN collaborate with these exchanges?
Concern is on the issue of mining. Please, I would like also, because it was, I think it's also that said it takes electricity to mine. So can he explain that mining to us? Because I thought digital, there's nothing backing it. And he was talking about the mathematical algorithm.
Okay.
So please throw more light on that.
Okay.
Directed to either of the lawyers, because I'd like to appeal to their legal knowledge. My question is, the justification, one of the justifications the CBN gave for placing a ban on cryptocurrency was the fact that it contravenes existing laws. Now, from the presentations that you just gave this afternoon, we made to understand that cryptocurrency is not money, is property, commodity, as the case may be. So what's the import of that statement? Since, because the fear is that it's displacing the legal tender, the only recognized legal tender of the country, which is Naira. So I really want some clarification. Thank you.
Making 150 Naira on every deposit. And we have over billions of Naira being transacted every day. So the banks are actually making a lot of money for themselves from cryptocurrency, even when the first circular told them that they should not engage. So the bank actually saw the opportunity because they make money off the charges. The charges, you just get in your account, you see SMS charge, 500 Naira, 1,000. That is how the bank makes their money. So they were making a lot of money, and CBN has actually spoiled business for them actually by taking them out. So we don't have that third-party availability anymore. So we have to transact on peer-to-peer basis. Okay. Then regards mining, now when you send Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency, the technology behind making that transaction successful or possible is mining. And mining is simply done by solving a computational problem. And this computational problem is not done with your head. It is done with a machine, mining machine. So we have several of them. And so these machines consume a huge amount of electricity. So that is why he said that the energy consumption of Bitcoin mining alone is as large as that of Ireland. So when you have these huge mining rigs everywhere, some of them in China, some of them in Russia, and all around the world, so it consumes a huge amount of electricity. If you buy a mining machine and you put it in your house, if you're using a prepaid meter, it's just like having a welder. The electricity bill a welder pays will not be the same with yours because of the level of consumption. So with mining, there is huge consumption, and most of the time, mining is unprofitable because of the amount of money you spend on energy. Or even in terms of mining, there are developments and innovations in that industry. So there are, I can't remember now, there are new types of mining machine that doesn't consume so much of energy, and it's making use of other energy sources. Okay?
So these mining machines, are they people or are they?
Yes. All you need to do is buy, or you need to, have a good mining machine with a huge capacity, okay, to be able to mine as many Bitcoins as possible. Okay, so when you have that machine, you need to connect it to a network, okay, network of other miners to be able to process, either Bitcoin transactions or any transaction. Okay, so please, there's a question around data law. Okay, so if you are asking the CBN to collaborate with major stakeholders in terms of, because this, like Binance, before you can transact on Binance, you need to do your KYC, you put your name and all of those details, you provide your identity card, you put in your BVN. So he is asking, in terms of collaborating, is it possible for the CBN to approach some of these major stakeholders and get the data of some of their customers? So in order to apply maybe taxes on profits, on withdrawals, on deposits, or any of those kind of levies.
Okay, thank you very much. I think in answering this question, I can take the third question and the last question together because they are similar. And before I come there, I can also address the second question, the first lady who asked the question, because I think these 3 questions are from the legal angle, which I know I can address. So, to the first lady that asked a question, yes, you can, as it stands today, you can have a get-to-get transaction without involving the central bank, without involving your bank, your GT bank, or your Zenith bank. Yes, you can. How can you, without even involving a third party, like an escrow platform? Yes, you can. How can you do this? If you go on maybe your WhatsApp, just see somebody that has cryptocurrencies, probably wants to sell and you want to buy, or vice versa. You just message the person on WhatsApp, hey, how far? I want to buy cryptocurrency, how much? It tells you, okay, you want to buy 20,000 naira, you send to his bank account, he sends the cryptocurrencies to your wallet. There's no, you don't use any third party, you can send straight from your wallet to another person's wallet. You don't need any escrow or whatever. Yes, you can do it, but as it starts today, you are doing it at your own risk, meaning that if you are making such transaction, it has to be with somebody that you trust. Somebody that you know that after you send the money, you are definitely going to get your coins from the person. That's the first question. Then to the guy who asked about, talking about the legal effect of cryptocurrencies right now, and also the lady who's asking about the legality of the ban. As the 3 speakers, as myself and the other 2 speakers have established, right now, cryptocurrency is not money. It is not a legal tender. That does not mean it is illegal. So from what the Central Bank of Nigeria was saying is that it is not a legal tender, meaning it is not a recognized mode of transfer or mode of payment of goods and services. Meaning that if I go to the market in Nigeria to buy something, the recognized mode of payment is Naira. But since for the past 4 to 3 years now, people have been using Bitcoins as a mode of payment. I know people who have bought properties in Nigeria here, from Nigerians who paid for the property using Bitcoins. I've seen these transactions. Yes. So what CBN is now looking at and trying to regulate now is that cryptocurrency is not a recognized mode of transaction. You cannot pay for, you cannot, now to put, let's be simple. You cannot go to the market to buy something and you pay in, let's say, you pay in Bitcoins. Then the problem now arises probably from, let's say, we are unclear as to the amount of what to pay or stuff like that. As it stands now, you cannot now challenge, you cannot now approach the court right now to say, oh, I paid for this, I paid for so and so, I paid for 3 plots of land, and the value of the plots of land was 0.00001 BTC per plot, and this was what I received. Going to the court now, the court will not be able to entertain that dispute because the mode of transaction used, the mode of payment used is not the legal tender that the court can assume jurisdiction. But that does not mean that it is illegal in sale. For something to be illegal, there has to be a law making it illegal, not just a memo. Now let's give practical examples. As a Nigerian, you cannot have a gun in your house. Why? It's not because the president said you shouldn't have gun. But the reason why you can't have a gun in your house, or why you can't have poisons, or why you can't have dangerous cars in your house, is because there is a Firearms Act, an act of parliament that was passed by the legislation that says you cannot hold firearms or you cannot have guns in your possession. So if you want to have guns in your possession, you must perform some specific things. There are some things you must do to get a permit to do that. That is what the law did. Right now, possession of cryptocurrency, owning it is not illegal. You cannot be arrested. When I say that this is special, you cannot be arrested for it. It is just that the central bank has said that we do not recognize it as a mode of transfer. And you can't be seen to complain when you do something and the problem that arises. You can't complain from it. But that doesn't mean that you cannot possess or that if you see, you cannot transact. As long as you don't transact using a commercial bank, because the banks will allow people to use their bank accounts to finance cryptocurrency activities. And going back to the first question a little bit, yes, it is very, very possible for Nigeria to have access to either a foreign bank account, a PayPal account, or some other digital wallets that deal with normal recognized legal tender like dollars and other currencies that are not illegal or that are not banned by the CBN. So, if, for example, you have access to a PayPal account and you can finance your wallet from a PayPal account, then why not? You can do that. It's not bad. It's not. If you do that, you are not going to run into any problems with the law. doing that. As at the start now, the reasons for coming to the last question asked by the last meeting, the reasons for the ban is not a legal reason per se.
Very well, very well. Thank you. We also appreciate